It's been a while since I've worked on this pickup, and today we're going to be fixing an issue that has kind of been getting worse over time. So I've been having issues with this truck where when I go to start it, all it does is click and eventually it starts, but it's pretty scary and it tends to happen at the worst possible time. Usually when you really need the truck to start, you just go to start it and it clicks. So since this is being recorded, it'll probably start the first time, of course, but I do have footage of what it normally does, and I'll show you that right now. So I don't think that it's the starter, the battery, or the cable, because all three of those things are new, and I've actually been doing a lot of research into this problem, and it turns out that there might be a wiring issue on these old Toyota pickups and 4Runners. So I haven't actually tested my truck against what I've found in those forum posts, but that's what we're gonna do in this video. We're gonna go ahead and see if my truck has the same problems as what they're describing in these forum boards, and if it does, we'll go ahead and fix the wiring issue. Alright, so I have a couple of documents here, and on this page you can see that this guy says that even after he cleaned his starter relay contacts, after months of being able to start it with no issues, the click-only problem struck again. He looked at the wiring schematic and he says that he found an electrical engineering blunder. Affected models are 86 to 88 4Runners and trucks with the 22RE, and it's basically saying that high current is sent to energize the starter solenoid, passes through the ST1 contacts of the ignition switch, and puts unnecessary stress on the switch contacts. Another article that I found is saying that it has good intentions but a bad implementation, and it's saying right here that, as you can see from the schematic, the starter relay control current and higher current to energize the starter solenoid both pass through the ignition key start/ST1 contacts. All right, and then another article that I found right here, this is on 4Crawler. This is saying that if you don't have a starter relay, some of these trucks didn't come with them, to go ahead and install one. And it is saying that if your vehicle already has a starter relay, you might want to just troubleshoot the existing system and make it work properly. Another article that I found is on LCE Engineering, which is stating that even if you have worn down contacts in an old starter, it should still be enough to fire up every time without fail. And basically they go through the same thing: hook up a new starter solenoid or relay and get it all working that way. And lastly, I found this article which is going over cleaning the contacts in the relay itself. So I'm going to go ahead and try this first. Then we're going to go through this article and go through this testing procedure. And if my truck fails the test, we're going to rewire this plug and it should fix the issue. I'm just going to start by removing this starter relay. That plug came out way easier than I expected it would. And remove this 10mm bolt that's holding the relay to the inside of the fender well. And we have successfully removed the relay. With the relay off, I'm just gonna pop these tabs up and then I should be able to remove this outer cover. So it turns out that this plastic part actually separates from this metal area here, and the relay itself still lives inside of this outer metal shell. So still needs to carefully remove this from this outside shell. So here's the inside of the relay, and at first glance it looks to be in pretty good shape, though I'm sure it's hard to judge the condition just off of looking at it. So in that article, the guy said that he cleaned in between these two contacts here with a piece of 400 grit sandpaper. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the same, and I'm gonna try to use my macro lens to show you what the condition of these is before and then after. Alright, so here's the before, and you can definitely see some pitting in that contact. Alright, here's the after, and I think that's probably as good as we're gonna get it. I'm gonna reinstall the relay now and see if the truck still starts, just making sure I haven't ruined anything yet. I just finished up putting that relay back in, so I'm going to go ahead and try to start the truck just to make sure I didn't shave too much off the contacts or that I didn't ruin the relay when I was doing what I just did. And it looks like we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the other tests now, which involve testing the wiring going to the relay. So I've oriented my plug the exact same way as seen in this article, and it's saying that the black wire with the white stripe goes to the brown connector on the starter solenoid, basically that one there, supplies power to the coil of the solenoid. The thin black wire with the red stripe is the clutch safety switch, which is right there in the bottom right corner. And then the black wire next to the thin black red wire gets 12 volts from the ignition switch when turned to start. So we're going to go ahead and just test that real quick. We should get 12 volts when the ignition is on. You're probably going to need a helper for this part because you do have to put the ignition into start, not accessory. So someone actually has to turn the key all the way as you're testing this. All right, go ahead and do it. All right, so as you saw when Megan tried to start the truck there, it did supply 12 volts. So we're good for that test. The last test is to check if you have 12 volts at this wire here with the ignition not in start, and I'm not getting anything out of this at all. After testing this, it says to check the resistance between these two wires, and if it's less than a few ohms, it means you have the wiring flaw. So we're going to go ahead and test that now. So we definitely have low resistance here. That is less than a few ohms as described in the thread. So it looks like we have the wiring issue. Now we just have to fix it. And the best part is that apparently it's only a couple dollars to fix this. All you have to do is connect pin number 4 of the starter relay to a 12 gauge wire with a fuse directly to the battery positive. So I stripped back the tape on the harness a little bit just so that I have more to work with here. And the wire that I'm going to be cutting is this black wire here that's diagonal from this black and red wire. And all I'm going to do is connect the plug end of this wire to 12 volts. And just to make this a little bit safer, I'm going to put a 30 amp fuse in between it. That wire that I just cut provides power to the contacts in the starter relay. So when I go to start the truck right now, it should not start. And it doesn't. Basically has the same problem that it already had. So now we're going to wire that thing to the battery. Wire is kind of thick, it's 12 gauge, and it's hard for my soldering gun to heat up enough to get the solder to flow through it, but it looks like a pretty strong connection. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So now I'll just put the heat shrink on and then hook this thing up to the battery. All right, I just finished it up. Let me show you how I did it. So the original wire that I cut is taped up into the harness right here just to protect it from the elements and whatever. The new wire is routed behind the fuse box right here with a fuse, a 30 amp fuse, and it tucks in between the fuse box and the battery and then just attaches to the positive terminal right here. So now I guess it's the moment of truth. Let's see if this thing starts up. Well, as you guys saw, it started right up. There was no clicking, no starting issues whatsoever. It just turned on like it's supposed to. It's a pretty easy fix. All I had to do, as you guys saw, was run one wire from the starter relay plug to the battery, and hopefully all my problems will be fixed down the road. I'll definitely let you guys know if I continue to have problems, but I'm thinking that we're good. Anyway, that's going to wrap up today's video. If you found this content helpful or you just enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.
Here we go, at the top of the